Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, so Casey, who says I'm the baddest MFer that's ever hosted a college basketball podcast. We did a segment on John Calipari and who could potentially be the next head coach at Kentucky if he were to resign, step away. And I think, first of all, a couple things stand out. One, the difference between it. Listen, the people watching probably have a better feel. I don't think you can raise $33 million to buy him out. It would have to be a resignation situation. Now, I did a piece on this about probably 5-6 weeks ago after the Gonzaga loss. And what I said was pretty straightforward. I said, let me even backtrack. What I said, this is what I said, and things have changed since then. This is the point I'm trying to get to. I think Eric Musselman was probably candidate 5-6 weeks ago. After the way things at Arkansas went, I don't think he's as much of a candidate. Chris Beard got an extension. I assume that would probably preclude him from being a candidate. This is what I would do if I was Mitch Barnhart. And here's the problem with Mitch Barnhart. I don't think he's got that big, you-know-what energy to make the moves necessary to actually get the guy that Kentucky needs. If I was Mitch Barnhart, this is what I would do. And this is, again, assuming that somehow, some way, John Calipari is willing to resign. He says, I just don't want to do this anymore. You know who the first call that I would make? I would get my money together. I would give Jay Wright that Godfather, Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley football offer. Jay Wright, 10 years, $100 million. We'll figure out how it gets paid after. Like when Deion Sanders got hired as the head coach at Colorado in football. If you remember the introductory press conference, the AD says, this is how much we're going to pay him, blah, 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 this and that. And what will the media asks him, they said, well, how are you planning on paying this money? And the AD says, yeah, we're not worried about it. We'll figure it out after. Okay. I bring it up because that is what Mitch Barnhart has to do. Figure out the money after. To me, Jay Wright is the answer. By the way, Jay Wright, who I think likes John Calipari, by the way, I'm sweating my you-know-what off here. I don't care if it shows. I'm stressed. I'm sweating, whatever. Jay Wright, after the game, really was sort of critical of John Calipari, if we're being perfectly honest. I saw a clip. It was posted on the Torres on UK Twitter account where Jay Wright basically said, look, Cal's got to stop rolling out these freshmen and expecting to win at the highest level. You can't do that in this era with 22, 23, 24-year-olds. Now, I don't think that really applies to this game specifically, but if Kentucky played like that against that team, imagine what it would have looked like if they ever got Houston, if they ever got UConn. Listen, UConn's got grown men that throw elbows and are mean and are physical and are this and are that. So Jay Wright would be the first name that I would call. 10 years, $100 million. Coach Wright, I know you said you'll never coach again. At least think about it. Here's the offer sheet. Think about it. You're like 65 years old. You probably won't make it till the end. You'll be set for your life. Your grandkids will be set for life, whatever. If Jay Wright said no, I would offer something very similar to Billy Donovan. Now, Billy Donovan's been out of college basketball forever. And I don't know that, one, he wants to come back, and two, I don't know how he would do in the portal NIL era, but maybe he'd just be like, you know what? I was in the NBA. We were paying for players up there. We'll pay for players down here. I don't know. What I think would happen, because I got this text in DM roughly 337 times over the course of that game, who I think Kentucky will go after, and this would not be my first call, is Scott Drew, the head coach at Baylor. And for whatever reason, it appears as though Mitch Barnhart, the AD at Baylor, at Kentucky, is infatuated with Scott Drew. And I don't get it. I get it. Listen, Scott Drew won a national championship. Okay, I'm not going to say he's not a great coach. I don't know that Scott Drew is built for Kentucky. And I like Scott Drew. I've actually had him on this podcast before. He's a very easygoing guy. But the bottom line is, I know he's won a national championship, all that, but he has never really felt a real day of pressure in his life. And I don't know that Kentucky, the pressure cooker that it is, Like, I don't know that he would be great in that situation. And so, again, my first call would be to Jay Wright. Make him say no. Then I'd call Billy Donovan. I personally, I would see what Chris Beard's contract setup is like. Can you get him out of it? How much is it going to cost? All that good stuff. Great thing, by the way, about Jay Wright, great thing about Billy Donovan is there would be no buyout, right? If Billy Donovan gets fired in the NBA, you don't have to pay him anything. If Jay Wright is obviously available, you don't have to pay him anything. So those would be the guys that I would go with. But again, Mitch Barnhart, he's an older guy. He's kind of hesitant in this NIL era, this and that. It seems like he's infatuated with Scott Drew. I don't really get it. See a couple people in the comments saying Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl's a stud. Problem with Bruce Pearl, he's like 68 years old. Not 68. He's like 63, basically the same age as Calipari is. By the way, checking in on a couple quick scores here. Wazoo has taken the lead. They are up 61-59 with 34 seconds left. Kansas up 10 on Sanford. Sanford making a little run. I'll say this, by the way, and we'll get to some more of your questions here in a minute. My bracket was looking really good until Kentucky, and shame on me, because what did I say? I said on Wednesday's show, I said, if you've shown me who you are, I'm going to believe it. It's why I faded Arizona. It's why I faded a couple other teams, San Diego State. I can't remember everybody. It's why I picked, I picked Oregon over, Oregon over whatever you call it, Oregon over South Carolina. I picked Dayton over Nevada. Love Nevada, but Steve Alford has shown me over the years, you start to trust him, he lets you down. Kentucky was the one. I didn't stick to my own advice, and they end up losing. Producer Matt, I know we got some more questions in here. What else we got? Hot take, Kentucky should go all in on a young dude, Todd Golden. He's not proven, but what would it hurt to give him a couple years? Todd Golden's an interesting one, man. And listen, sometimes in life, you got to take L's. And I might have to take an L on Todd Golden, because it was really interesting. If you're an old school listener of this show, when he was at San Francisco, he was at San Francisco before he got to Florida. And his whole thing, he's a genius from this perspective. By the way, Todd Golden, I believe July 5th is his birthday. I'm July 6th, so I feel a little kinship with him, even though I've never met him. Anyway, he was very smart. When he was at San Francisco, he branded himself as the analytics guy. And it was like, there was this big thing about, he fouls up to when it's a bad free throw shooter. It's like, it's genius, because if they miss it, the analytics say that it's the right move, whatever. And I remember saying at the time, I was like, okay, cool. But now you're going to the SEC. And you know who else has access to analytics? Nate Oates has access to analytics. You know who else has access to analytics? Bruce Pearl has access to analytics. Rick Barnes, John Calipari. And so I said, I don't really care about your analytics. Can you get players? Well, now he's gotten players at Florida. You notice how he's no longer the analytics guy? So, I think he's a little young. He's like 36, 37 years old. I just think that is a big, big, big step after one really good year at Florida. I am very impressed by him, though. And that's what I might just have to take an L on. The one thing I respect, two things I respect about Todd Golden. He's young, but he believes in his philosophy. I've heard him say two things that I've been impressed by. One, he has jumped full speed ahead into the NIL stuff. He's just basically said, this is the world. We're paying players. I got to raise funds, etc. Two, he was very, outspoken about, we're not going to recruit high school players. The only high school players we're going to recruit, they have to be a McDonald's All-American caliber player that we know wants to be a Florida Gator. We're not wasting our time. Basically the anti-Calipari. It's an older player sport. We can get good players at Florida. I'll tell you, I could see a scenario where he is coaching at a blue blood type job. I don't know after one really good year at Florida that he's necessarily the right fit. But Justin Keith, that's a great comment. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, I don't know. Will Wade, come on down. So, okay. What I would encourage everybody to do, I know McNeese got smoked. Earlier today. What I would encourage everybody to do, go back and listen to my interview with Will Wade. I have spoken with Coach Wade once, didn't know him much before the interview. I could not have been more impressed by that guy. People say, he lost by 1,000,000 points to Gonzaga. Okay. All right, cool. Well, guess what? Whatever. First of all, their tallest player is like 6'6". He built a 30-win team overnight. He gets the portal. And what stood out to me about Will Wade what stood out to me about Will Wade, did you hear the comment when he came on this show? Did you hear the comment that he made? He said, we were talking about the net and we kind of really got behind the conversation that eventually ended up happening a few days later when the bracket came out and how the net is kind of screwy and all that stuff. And he said, the net is so skewed for the power conferences. He said, he said, what is a good job in the power conferences? He said, all of them are, because everything is weighted in your favor. And so what he said was, he said, if you can raise just enough NIL money, you should make the tournament every year, regardless of what school you're at. And so to me, all I'll say about Will Wade, he is going to get something in the next couple years, and it's going to be a vengeance with him at a major school in the NIL era. What I could tell you, there's all sorts of whispers. Arkansas fans will tell you, Eric Musselman, is he trying to look for another spot? I don't know, but you hear stuff. I know Arkansas would go all in on Will Wade. I saw SMU obviously fired their coach today. I think that's an interesting landing spot. But I'm here to tell you, man, if you think about a guy that could be that could be potentially in the right spot at the right time, it's Will Wade.